I'm Julia Elliott for We Love Cycling, and in today's video I'm going to be looking at gravel bikes and what you need to look for if you're considering buying one. So of course you can ride any kind of bike on the gravel trails, but if you are looking for something specific, there are several things you need to consider before you make your purchase. The very first thing, of course, is to think about what kind of riding you want to do. Where will you be riding? How aggressive will you be riding it? Are you looking for something that's going to handle more kind of single track mountain bike type trails? Or are you looking for stuff that's more kind of all road, which tends to mean fast, hard-packed gravel tracks, as well as lots of tarmac sections. So once you've decided the kind of bike you want, the next thing you need to consider is the frame geometry. So a cyclocross bike, though designed to be ridden off-road, is really geared around very fast, sharp handling with tight geometry. A cyclocross bike is generally just going to be ridden for about an hour, and it's not going to be the most comfortable if you want to go on a long gravel ride. Gravel specific bikes tend to have a longer wheelbase and slightly slacker geometry that is going to be a lot more comfortable. You might have a shorter reach with a shorter top tube and a longer head tube. All these things are going to make the handling slightly different and make you a little bit more comfortable over the miles. So the next thing you want to look at is tyre clearance. Gravel bikes are designed to take pretty wide tyres compared to a road bike or a cyclocross bike. Some of them these days can take up to 50mm tyres, so that's going to give you a really comfy, cushioned ride. Again, you want to sort of zone in on what kind of riding you're going to be doing. You might not need 50mm of tyre clearance if you're just going to be sticking to those gravel paths and canal tow paths, but if you want to be riding some of the single track, that might be a winner for you. The large volume tyres make the ride a bit more comfortable because you can lower the pressure, and that's something that is going to give you a bit more grip as well as evening out all the lumps and bumps. Once you've looked at that, the next thing you need to consider is the gearing. Obviously you can change things like this afterwards, but you're probably going to want one by, which means a single chainring at the front. You're also going to usually want to have quite a wide range of gears because you might be potentially riding on some quite steep climbs. So my gearing goes from 10 to 42 at the back, which means I can get up even the steepest hill, well, in theory. Another thing to consider is the wheels that come as standard on the bike you're considering buying. Of course you can swap out the wheels later, and that's often a first upgrade for many people, but generally speaking you're going to want to run a tubeless setup on your gravel bike. That means you can run the pressure a bit lower and you don't risk getting a pinch flat. That will make it a bit more comfortable as well. Another thing to consider is the components that come with your bike. Some people want to run suspension forks, suspension stems, or even a dropper post. Again, it depends on what sort of riding you're doing. These are all upgrades you can make later. When it comes to handlebars, a lot of people like to have flared bars because it gives you a little bit more control when you're descending and cornering, gives you a sort of wider turning circle. It also means that you can fit your bike packing bags on the front and still use your shifters without them catching on the bags. You're also going to want to have disc brakes because you have more reliable and consistent braking in all conditions with those. The only other thing that I would consider would be whether your bike has got any frame mounts. You might want to mount a stem bag here if you're going to be doing any gravel racing. That's quite a good place to store your gels. Or you might want to bolt on some extra bottle cages on your fork if you're going bike packing, or maybe bolt on a rack or a mud guard. These are all things to consider when looking for your new gravel bike. Whatever you choose, I hope you have fun out on the trails.